James McAnany. I'm a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police here in J Division, that is New Brunswick. I have been for the last 30 years. All of my service here in J Division. I've done general duty work along with a number of specialized sections. Presently with operational readiness and response, that's emergency planning.
Okay. So like when the floods and stuff came, that was...
Floods and ice storms and basically any emergencies both outside the RCMP and within the RCMP. If something should happen to our own ability to continue to deliver the service, right, you have to be able to manage that emergency as well. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about violence, just in general, and then kind of into hockey. So when you, like, in your experience in the RCMP, have you been faced with a lot of violent actions, violent crimes, etc.? Like, is that something that you've had to deal with over the past 30 years of your experience?
Sure. I mean, maybe not a lot, because I think it's I would say overblown, but I mean there are certain ways where I guess you learn over the course of time to diffuse what potentially could become a very otherwise violent situation. So there have been, yes, I've had violent encounters, but I guess you learn to skirt around them, or at least manage them better and better as you go along.
Kind of on a case by case.
Yeah, and you learn from experience too that your best defense, your best argument, or your best tool, I guess, is your mouth. Is how you're able to diffuse a situation just by simply talking it out, and that's a big part of our toolkit, I guess, and some of the tools that we use in diffusing these things.
Being an RA, actually talking down drunk residents is something that I do regularly. It's a fun time. So.
Exactly, and you acquire certain expertise in managing those situations when you can talk them down, as you say.
Yeah, it's sure. It's good. All right, so looking at sports in general, I mean, there's a lot of violence in particular sports such as football and hockey, but there's no more so extracurricular violence than there's in hockey. Fighting is encouraged. You're literally given little clubs to carry around and there's a certain amount of leeway given there. With the rash of violent incidents in junior hockey and the NHL in the past, year and a half, more so than ever before, there haven't been a few cases go to the RCMP. How do you feel about that? It's, I mean, the fact that it's going past the ice, past the league, and into your hands. How do you feel about that in general? That you're having to handle these situations that could have been contained on the ice, but are so maybe out of control that you have to deal with them.
Well, I think there are, there's varying opinion on whether or not it is appropriate for an on-ice, in this case hockey, a sanctioned sporting event with all of the rules and regulations and all that that means, whether or not that is material or matter for an outside agency or system to get in on. Should the need be appropriate, or should it be deemed appropriate? My view, quite simply, is yes. Because it's a sanctioned event, whether it's hockey or football, let's talk contact sports here. Notwithstanding the fact that it's a sanctioned event, that does not preclude or exclude the long arm of the law. Not the long arm of the police. We're just an arm of the justice system. There's the legislative side, the side that makes the laws, and then there's the enforcement side, the police, which executes the laws. Because it's a sanctioned event, in my view, it does not preclude or exclude the long arm of the law from entering into that arena, to use a word. Good pun. It does not preclude from entering into that arena and dealing with the issue at hand. It is a contact sport. We agree. If two individuals drop the gloves and face each other and enter into a fight, then I'm going to go out on a limb here, my experience, and venture and say that likely would not be a matter for the police. Two people agree to engage in fisticuffs. You're allowed to hurt me, and I'm allowed to hurt you if we agree that we're going to fight. And, the chips will fall where they may from there. If I suffer a broken nose and you don't, well, I guess I'm the loser here. Where we would, however, draw the line, and this has to be judged on a case-by-case basis, I think, is the overreaction to said fight. If I drop to the ground immediately and you continue to pummel me and I am no longer offering any defense, then that's clearly outside of the established rules of engagement that we, agreed to prior to as we entered into this fight. That clearly to me is something which is outside of the rules. If, for instance, and we've seen this documented in a number of cases in the National Hockey League over the last number of years and recently within the junior ranks as well, you lose focus of what the intention is here, and that is to play the game of hockey, to use my stick to score goals, to use the puck to score goals with. Then now you're no longer playing the game of hockey. Your agenda has now been hijacked. Your intent is something quite apart from the game of hockey. And now you're either slashing or you're coming across somebody's neck or back or head with your hockey stick and they fall to the ground, and where we've seen this before, you begin to pummel. That's clearly outside of the stated objective of playing hockey for the purposes of scoring goals and winning a game. There's the heat of the moment, yes, and I think probably that's where the controlling bodies, and fortunately in the case of the National Hockey League, it's an organization, a professional organization, and by that I mean it has its rules, its regulations, its a process for sanctioning and for punishing inappropriate behavior or illegal behavior. So it's got a controlling body that sees to the management of the good of the organization, and that is to play lots of good hockey and sell tickets. However, their management of their players and incidents that may occur is not strictly within their domain, in my opinion. Clearly for some of the examples and some of the examples that we've talked about here now, it very much lies within the domain of law enforcement and the justice system to deal with. And I think the key is the intent. Sure, there's the heat of the moment where you react, but I think on a case-by-case basis, when all of the when the tapes are reviewed and some sober second thought is given to this, and the experts are there to assess the actions and the reactions, and professionals, people who know the business of hockey. Because me as a novice, or maybe as someone who's more uninformed, it would not necessarily be in that best position to make those assessments. And I think probably what we should be looking towards, and which maybe is what is to come, is a regulatory body, or at least a body that will be constituted to make these assessments, whether it's a balance of within the organization, the league, and I'm not necessarily talking just the National Hockey League, but the junior ranks as well, and civilian oversight to bring that other perspective, and there is a good perspective to be brought from a person such as myself, or just the locals, the civilian who's in the stands watching the game, because they're not stupid people. They're not hockey players, and they don't know maybe what the heat of the moment is, but they bring perspective to what it is they saw and whether it was reasonable or unreasonable. So maybe a body will have to be constituted at some point, whereby you've got the ordinary Joe, the civilian, you've got the hockey management, and maybe law enforcement to sit as a committee and decide that was clearly outside of the respected or normal bounds. But something clearly has to be done with those situations and events which clearly to an outside person is outside the bounds of hockey.
That's fantastic, is what it is. I agree 100%, and with the fact that you talked about the governing bodies dealing with things in the heat of the moment, but when it comes past that, the intent is what's important. And
if you're no longer playing hockey here, and you can, if you make a run from behind, as in some cases we've seen on television, to go for someone, and you're obviously not looking at the puck or the game or anything anymore, it's your intent is definitely, then that is a criminal. As far as I'm concerned, it's a criminal matter. Yet to be proven. The person is presumed innocent until. But on the face of it, that to me looks like it's above and beyond. And it now will be taken from that arena to to use another pun, and brought into another arena.